Guten Tag, APUSH. We have a new video today. It's the Bee's Knees by the Big Cheese himself, Mr. Linegar. Let's make history today as we jaw over Unit 6, Day 9. But first, let's do our daily punishment. Apple's designing a new automatic car, but they're having trouble installing Windows. Key terms for today, kiddos, are the NIRA, the NRA, the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Wagner Act, the TVA, the Second New Deal, the NYA, the WPA, Father Charles Coughlin, Francis Townsend, Huey Long, the Court Packing Scheme, and the Social Security Act. We're going to go over the Second New Deal and its effects, the critics of the New Deal and their rationale, why the New Deal died. So let's talk about some labor laws. These were laws during the New Deal meant to protect labor. A lot of these were really dealing with reform out of the 3 R's, and these were actually during the first New Deal still. So the big one is the NIRA, the National Industrial Recovery Administration, was formed. This was an administration that was meant to set limits for labor and corporations. It was meant to be an arbitrator between labor unions and businesses. It did get rid of yellow dog contracts. Within the NIRA, they formed an organization, the NRA, the National Recovery Administration. This is the administration that was part of this, that would actually enforce the laws and could prosecute businesses or labor unions that were violating the laws. This whole law right here is going to be ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, so this and this will die. The next thing is the Wagner Act. The Wagner Act is sometimes called the Magna Carta for labor. It gives labor the right to organize. And lastly, the Fair Labor Standards Act, which established a minimum wage and 40-hour work week. So finally, federal minimum wage. Although states have minimum wage as well. Here's a NRA poster. Next thing is the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. The TVA was meant to reform utilities and power monopolies. It created hydroelectric power plants in the Tennessee Valley, like dams that would provide electricity. A lot of the area right here in the south did not have electricity. They were still using like gasoline and stoves and stuff like that. So this would make hydroelectric plants to provide electricity for this whole area. It provided fair rates and gave many people electricity. A lot of Republicans did not like this because it was the government literally creating corporations that provided public utilities. So they thought it was straight up socialist, which it kind of was, but that's fine. Because the government is creating, creating their own electrical company. And, that goes against the idea of capitalism, where you have people and individuals make their own businesses and do that. But in FDR's defense, the reason he was doing this was there was no electricity here, so no business was actually creating electricity for this area. It also provided electricity, it provided jobs, it helped with medicine and health in this area. So it was pretty good. All right, we'll talk about the Second New Deal now. The Second New Deal was between 1935 to 1936. Here are some of the big agencies created in the Second New Deal. The WPA was created during the Second New Deal. It employed over 9 million people to work on public projects like building bridges, theaters, paintings. They actually paid artists and writers to write plays for the New Deal. Some of it was kind of propaganda. So a lot of this was for white collar jobs. This was relief and recovery. Arthur Miller was a person that was actually employed under the WPA for writing. The National Youth Administration, the NYA, was designed to help young Americans, like college and high school kids, provide them part-time jobs to allow them to stay at school, to prevent them from being truant, joining gangs, being troublemakers. This was relief and recovery. One of the people that's going to be in charge of the NYA in Texas will be my hero, Lyndon Johnson, right here. Yeah. There he is right here. Look at that. Beautiful. Gallon hat. Not everybody liked the New Deal. FDR will have some opponents. Father Charles Coughlin, his catchphrase will be social justice. He was a Catholic priest, and he said the New Deal was being run by Jews. He's going to rage against the New Deal. He's going to say it's communist. He also kind of liked Hitler. Eventually, the Catholic Church will be embarrassed by him, so they'll silence him. Huey Long is one of my favorite people. He was a senator and then governor of Louisiana. He basically tried to outdo FDR. He tried to make like Louisiana. He basically made Louisiana his own like little boss politics there, where he controlled all the politics of Louisiana through bribery and corruption. And he almost made himself like a little dictator in Louisiana. He tried to go further to the left than FDR. He had the Share Our Wealth program. Every family gets $5,000. Like, let's re-give wealth. Like Huey Long legitimately wanted to do redistribution of wealth. He will be assassinated. Dr. Francis Townsend will say that everybody over 65 should receive $200 a month. FDR will actually take this idea from Dr. Francis Townsend and will create Social Security, where the government takes out money from your paycheck, and when you turn a certain age, you get like retirement, Social Security, which we still have today, even though it's going bankrupt. There's Father Charles Coughlin. Here's a political cartoon about Charles Coughlin and how Hitler likes him. This is from Dr. Seuss. There's Huey Long. Next thing, here's going to be what kills the New Deal. So, FDR was upset because some of the Supreme Court justices were ruling his laws unconstitutional. So he was angry that his New Deal laws were being ruled unconstitutional. He was extremely popular. He had just been reelected, like in a landslide. So what he's going to propose is to increase the size of the Supreme Court. He wants to add a new justice for everybody over 70. So he wanted to pack the Supreme Court. That meant there would have been like new justices that he could have appointed, which would have prevented them from voting against New Deal legislation. He's going to propose this in 1936, 1937, when a lot of the Supreme Court Supreme Court justices were ruling against his New Deal legislation. He was afraid they were about to rule against Social Security. And what's going to happen is this will not pass Congress. Even though the Democrats had a huge majority in Congress, a lot of the Democrats, especially the Congress people, especially in the South, were conservative. And they thought FDR was trying to destroy the balance of power, the separation of powers. He was trying to, kind of low-key become a dictator because he wanted to pack the Supreme Court. Like, they believed in the idea of separation of powers and stuff. So they're going to vote against this. In the next midterm election, there's going to be a lot more conservative Democrats. And really, this whole thing is going to kill the goodwill from the New Deal. And really, the New Deal stops after 37, 38. That's when America's going to really start focusing on World War II anyway. However, one of the things that the court packing scheme does is some of the justices are going to start to vote differently after this. I don't know if they were afraid. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but they're going to start voting for New Deal legislation. Eventually, a couple of them will die, and FDR will get the liberal justices he wants anyway. So one of the things we say this is there's one justice that starts switching sides, and they call it the switch in time that saved the nine. This guy switched his voting, and it saved the Supreme Court from being packed. Although, honestly, the packing scheme would not have worked out. He didn't have the votes in Congress. And here's a cartoon. This is very negative of the court packing scheme. But I think it's pretty fair. All right, kiddos, that's all I have for you for today. Until next time, deuces. Deuces, yeah.